What if I told you that the kindest thing you can do for someone is sometimes not to be gentle? We're taught that compassion is soft, yielding, and endlessly accommodating, but what if that version of kindness is actually causing more harm? The Buddha taught a more radical, courageous form of compassion, one that requires wisdom, firm boundaries, and sometimes saying no. Have you ever felt exhausted from being the nice one all the time? Drained from trying to please everyone, only to feel resentful or taken for granted? This feeling of burnout isn't a personal failure. It's a sign that your compassion is missing a crucial ingredient: wisdom. Stay with me, and we will explore the timeless Buddhist teaching on how to be truly, powerfully compassionate without losing yourself. Imagine compassion is a light, a soft, gentle candle flame is beautiful and comforting in a quiet room, but sometimes, to help someone navigate a dangerous path in the dark, you don't need a candle. You need a powerful, focused spotlight that reveals the truth of the situation, even if that truth is uncomfortable. Today, we learn why true Buddhist compassion is sometimes a spotlight, not just a candle. Have you ever wondered if being gentle with everyone, in every situation, is always the right path? In a world where kindness, compassion, and understanding are often celebrated as the highest of virtues, it can feel unsettling, even counterintuitive, to imagine that gentleness alone is not enough. Yet, within the timeless and profound wisdom of Buddhism, we discover a deeper, more balanced, and ultimately more effective perspective. The Buddha, the great physician of the soul who devoted his life to uncovering the truths of human suffering and liberation, taught that true compassion is not always soft. It is wise, it is discerning, and it is powerfully transformative. Over 2,500 years ago, a sheltered prince named Siddhartha Gautama left his palace on a profound journey. He was driven by a single, burning question: why do we suffer, and is there a way to find lasting peace? Through his own intense experimentation and eventual enlightenment, he revealed the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path, offering humanity a clear and practical map for achieving inner freedom. His teachings are a beautiful reminder that while kindness is absolutely essential, it must be guided and illuminated by wisdom if we are to cultivate authentic peace and genuine growth, both for ourselves and for those around us. In this reflection, we will explore why Buddhism encourages us to go beyond mere, unconditional gentleness, and to instead embrace a more complete and courageous understanding of compassion, one that truly nurtures the soul. The heart of the matter: understanding the Four Noble Truths. To grasp why wisdom is so crucial, we must first touch the very heart of the Buddha's teaching, the Four Noble Truths. These are not abstract dogmas to be believed, but practical, observable realities that serve as a guide for understanding life's difficulties and discovering a path toward freedom. The first noble truth, the truth of suffering, dukkha. The Buddha began with a simple, honest, and unflinching observation: life, by its very nature, involves suffering or dukkha. This word doesn't just mean dramatic physical pain. It's a much deeper concept. It includes the obvious suffering of sickness, old age, and loss, but it also points to a more subtle, pervasive emotional restlessness, the dissatisfaction that arises even when things are going well, the stress of things changing when we want them to stay the same, and that quiet, background hum of anxiety that suggests something is always missing. By acknowledging this universal reality of dukkha instead of pretending it doesn't exist, we open the door to wisdom. Recognizing its presence allows us to face life with honesty and to feel the deep, shared compassion for ourselves and for every other being who is navigating this same human condition. The second noble truth, the cause of suffering, samadaya. The Buddha then explained that the root of this suffering is not random or external. It lies within us, in our craving, clinging, and attachment, a state known as tanha or thirst. We desperately cling to pleasant experiences, wanting them to last forever. We aggressively resist discomfort and pain. We constantly chase after things, people, or statuses we believe will finally make us feel whole and secure. Yet, as you may have noticed in your own life, this endless cycle of grasping only deepens our unrest. Sometimes, even being overly accommodating or desperately seeking everyone's approval can be a subtle form of this attachment, an attachment to being liked, to avoiding conflict. True freedom comes not from endlessly pleasing others, but from letting go of this clinging and cultivating a balanced, peaceful heart. The third noble truth, the cessation of suffering, nirodha. Here lies the profound promise of the path. The Buddha assures us that suffering can cease. It is not a permanent life sentence. When we learn to release our attachments and gently quiet the thirst of craving, the restless cycle slows down, and our natural, inherent peace arises. This cessation, nirodha, is not an escape from life or a state of emotionless apathy. It is a deeper, more engaged way of living, free from the heavy chains of constant wanting. It is a powerful reminder that liberation is possible, right here and now, in the very midst of our daily lives. The fourth noble truth, the path to the cessation of suffering, magga. Finally, the Buddha didn't just diagnose the problem, he offered a clear, practical prescription, the Noble Eightfold Path. This is a gentle but disciplined way of living that simultaneously cultivates wisdom, ethical conduct, and mindful awareness. Right view and right intention guide our understanding, right speech, right action, and right livelihood shape our ethical conduct in the world, and right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration strengthen our inner clarity and stability. Together, these 8 principles form a path of perfect balance, not extreme gentleness nor harsh self-denial, but a middle way, guided by a compassion that is always informed by wisdom, the wisdom of balance. Walking the middle way. The middle way is one of the most essential teachings of the Buddha. Before his enlightenment, Prince Siddhartha experienced both extremes of life. First, as a prince, he was surrounded by every imaginable luxury and sensual pleasure. Later, as an ascetic, he practiced severe self-denial, starving his body almost to the point of death. He discovered that neither path led to peace. Neither self-indulgence nor self-mortification brought him any closer to the truth. True awakening came only when he discovered the middle way, a balanced, intelligent path that nurtures both the body and the mind without clinging to any extreme. In our daily lives, the middle way reminds us to meet others with compassion, but also with discerning wisdom, to be endlessly gentle and accommodating. For instance, may simply enable a friend's harmful addiction, allowing their suffering to continue. To be overly harsh and judgmental, however, may push them away and cause unnecessary pain. The middle way teaches us to respond with wisdom, perhaps by offering kindness while also setting a clear, firm boundary, saying, "I love you, and because I love you, I cannot support this behavior." It is a path of harmony where clear-eyed wisdom and an open heart walk hand in hand. Fierce compassion, the wisdom of boundaries. In Buddhist practice, compassion, or karuna, is a guiding light. Yet, this concept is often deeply misunderstood in the modern world. True compassion does not mean being a doormat. It does not mean tolerating harm, nor does it require us to sacrifice our own well-being for the comfort of others. Instead, the Buddha taught that genuine compassion must always arise from wisdom. It is the ability to see clearly the roots of suffering and to respond in the way that most skillfully helps to bring about freedom. This is the vital distinction between compassion and enabling. To enable is to allow a harmful behavior or pattern to continue unchecked, often out of our own fear, our own attachment to being liked, or our own desire to avoid a difficult conversation. True compassion, however, looks deeper. It seeks to alleviate suffering at its very cause, even when that requires speaking a difficult truth or setting a firm, uncomfortable boundary. This is sometimes called fierce compassion. Like a loving parent who quickly pulls their child away from a hot stove. The action is firm and decisive, and it might even cause the child to cry out in surprise. But it is motivated by the purest love, the desire to prevent a much greater form of suffering. The Buddha illustrated this principle of skillful means through the famous parable of the raft. In the story, a traveler comes to the edge of a vast and dangerous river. There is no bridge, no boat. To save his life, he painstakingly gathers vines and logs and builds a simple raft. By clinging to this raft, he is able to paddle safely to the far shore. Once he arrives, he feels immense gratitude for the raft that saved him. But then, the Buddha asks, what should he do? Should he, out of attachment and gratitude, hoist the heavy raft onto his back and carry it with him for the rest of his journey? Of course not, the monks reply. He should leave it at the riverbank and continue his journey, light and free. The Buddha explained that his teachings are like this raft. They are skillful tools meant for crossing the river of suffering, but they are not meant to be clung to as dogma. Our approach to compassion can be understood in the same light. At times, gentle, soothing kindness is the perfect raft. It supports, calms, and guides others through their struggles. But if we cling to that one tool of gentleness in every single situation, it may become a heavy burden, preventing real growth or even allowing harm to continue. In those moments, Wisdom asks us to set aside excessive softness and act with clear-eyed discernment. This is not a rejection of compassion, it is its truest, bravest, and most effective expression, now that we understand that true compassion requires wisdom and that all beings, without exception, face the reality of suffering. How do we begin to apply this balanced middle path in our complex modern lives? How do we find the courage to set the boundaries that lead to true freedom, both for ourselves and for others? In our next section, we will explore practical ways to live this profound teaching. In our journey so far, we have laid a profound foundation. We've questioned the simple notion of gentleness. We've explored the Buddha's core diagnosis of the human condition through the Four Noble Truths. And we've been introduced to the middle way, a path of beautiful, courageous balance. We ended with the story of a grieving mother, Kissa Gotami, who was sent by the Buddha on a seemingly impossible task. She returns to him, not with the mustard seed she sought, but with a new, heartbreaking, and ultimately liberating understanding. Sorrow and death are universal, woven into the very fabric of human life. The profound lesson of this parable is that suffering is not a personal punishment, nor is it unique to a select few. It is an inseparable, shared part of our existence. To live is to encounter loss. Yet, it is in bravely recognizing this shared truth that we open our hearts to a vast, boundless compassion for all beings. This story also reminds us that simple comfort alone cannot pull up the deep roots of suffering. A gentle word may soothe a wounded heart for a moment, but it does not answer the deeper questions of life and death. The Buddha's teaching goes further. It guides us to face suffering directly, to understand its intricate causes, and to courageously walk the path that leads beyond it. In this way, the parable of the mustard seed offers more than mere consolation. It offers the life-altering perspective. By seeing that no one is alone in their grief, we learn that true healing comes not from denying our pain, but from transforming it with wisdom. The physician's art, skillful means, and the wisdom of impermanence. If the path to wisdom requires us to be more than just gentle, how then do we know how to act? In Buddhism, the path is not a rigid set of rules to be blindly followed, but the living, breathing practice that adapts to the unique needs of each moment. Two profound teachings, skillful means and impermanence, offer as clear guidance on how to relate to ourselves and others with clarity, compassion, and that essential balance. Skillful means, or upaya, can be understood as the Buddha's approach of a master physician. A wise doctor does not give every patient the same medicine. They first diagnose the specific ailment, consider the individual's constitution, and only then prescribe the most effective treatment. Skillful means reminds us that true compassion must be just as flexible and discerning. At times, compassion may take the form of gentle encouragement, offering a soft place for someone in pain to land. At other times, it may require direct, uncomfortable honesty or the setting of a firm boundary to prevent further harm. This is not a contradiction. It is a reflection of profound wisdom, the art of tailoring our actions to the unique and specific conditions before us. Recognizing individual differences is central to this practice. Each person we meet is walking their own unique path, shaped by a lifetime of different experiences, wounds, and needs. A gentle word may heal one person, while another may only be able to grow through firm, loving guidance. For a child learning to walk, sometimes the most compassionate act is to hold their hand. Other times, it is to let them go so they can discover their own balance. Both are acts of love. By listening deeply and practicing empathy, we learn how to respond in ways that truly support another's journey to freedom, without ever losing sight of our own well-being. Skillful means, then, is compassion in wise and courageous action, adaptable, discerning, and always attuned to the greater good. This beautiful practice is made possible by the deep understanding of impermanence, or anicca. This is the universal truth that all things, our thoughts, our emotions, our relationships, and even our struggles, are constantly changing. Nothing is static. Emotions rise and fall like waves on the ocean. If we cling too tightly to them, responding to a momentary flash of anger with our own unnecessary harshness, or to a fleeting sadness with excessive, enabling gentleness, we create instability for ourselves and others. Seeing emotions as impermanent, passing clouds allows us to meet them with a steady balance and calm, a quality we will soon explore as equanimity. The same is true for our relationships. Even the most cherished connections evolve and change with time. People grow, circumstances shift, and no relationship remains exactly as it once was. By embracing the truth of impermanence, we learn to appreciate each moment of connection with a precious, heartfelt fullness, while also preparing our hearts for the natural, inevitable flow of change. Impermanence also teaches us the profound art of letting go. To cling rigidly to a single identity, I must always be the gentle one, or I must always be the strong one, is to resist the very nature of reality. Instead, we can approach life with a radical openness and adaptability, meeting each moment as it truly is, not as we wish it to be. Together, skillful means and impermanence guide us to live wisely, compassionate yet discerning, appreciative yet unattached, fully present, and ultimately free. The foundation of strength, mindfulness and self-compassion. Mindfulness is the beating heart of all Buddhist practice. It is the simple yet profound art of being fully present, aware of each moment as it unfolds, without the overlay of our habitual judgment. When this clear awareness is combined with a warm self-compassion, it becomes a powerful, unwavering guide for living with balance, especially in the delicate practice of not being overly gentle with everyone. Mindfulness reminds us that true, sustainable compassion must always begin within. You cannot pour from an empty cup. If we are always gentle and accommodating toward others but consistently neglect our own well-being, we are on a direct path to exhaustion, resentment, and burnout. Self-compassion means honoring our own limits with respect. It means caring for our own emotional needs and treating ourselves with the very same kindness we so freely wish to offer to others. This is not selfishness, It is the necessary foundation that allows us to extend authentic, grounded compassion outward. A tree with weak roots cannot offer shade to anyone. Self-compassion is the act of tending to our own roots. Mindfulness also cultivates the critical ability to observe our own faults and emotions without being immediately hijacked by them. When faced with a conflict or a challenging person, this practice creates a precious space, a sacred pause between the stimulus and our response. Within that pause lies our wisdom and our freedom. Instead of being swept away by a flash of anger, a surge of fear, or the conditioned desire to please at all costs, we can access a deeper part of ourselves. We can choose to respond with clarity and discernment. Through the twin practices of mindfulness and self-compassion, we learn to act not from old habits or reactive emotion, but from a place of deep presence, wisdom, and unshakable balance. The unshakable heart, cultivating equanimity. This leads us to one of the most sublime qualities of an awakened heart, equanimity. Known in Buddhism as upekkha, it is one of the 4 divine abodes, and it is the quality of steady, spacious balance in the face of life's constant changes. It is the calm, unwavering center of the wheel that remains still while the world turns. It is the deep, quiet peace that remains unshaken whether we encounter joy or sorrow, praise or blame, comfort or difficulty. To cultivate equanimity is to nurture a mind that does not desperately cling to the highs or violently resist the lows, but instead rests in an expansive state of clarity and peace. In the context of learning not to be endlessly gentle, equanimity is especially important. It is often misunderstood as a cold, detached indifference, but it is the exact opposite. Indifference is a state of not caring. Equanimity allows you to care more deeply and effectively, because your heart is no longer being tossed around by every emotional wave. It is the spacious wisdom that guides us to respond, not just react. With this profound balance, we can offer kindness without enabling harm. We can express firmness without tipping over into anger. Real compassion is not limited to soft words or accommodating gestures. It is rooted in the unshakable desire to genuinely support the long-term well-being of all beings. Sometimes that support takes the form of gentleness, and other times it requires the fierce compassion of setting boundaries or speaking difficult truths. By walking the middle way with the stable heart of equanimity, we honor the timeless wisdom of the Buddha. We learn to hold both gentleness and discernment in a beautiful, dynamic harmony, creating a compassion that is steady, truly transformative, and enduring. As we reflect on these timeless teachings, a clearer picture of compassion emerges. It is not a one-dimensional quality, but the rich, multifaceted expression of a wise and open heart. It is not always soft and yielding. It is courageous. It is discerning. It is balanced. Being gentle with everyone may feel virtuous on the surface, but we now understand that genuine, lasting peace arises only when our kindness is guided by the clarity of wisdom, the presence of mindfulness, and the courage to set compassionate boundaries. The middle way, skillful means, and the unshakable heart of equanimity remind us that true compassion is most powerful when it is adaptable. when it is rooted in a deep understanding of reality, and when it is free from a fearful attachment to any single way of being. If these teachings resonate with you, I invite you to take a moment today to practice this deeper compassion. Practice mindfulness of your own needs. Practice discernment in your interactions. Gently notice where your soft, kind heart serves best, and notice where a wise and loving firmness is what is truly needed. This is the path of courageous love. If you found value in this reflection and wish to continue exploring this path of practical wisdom for modern life, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel, and be sure to hit the notification bell so you never miss a moment of clarity and peace. Walk the middle way, and let your compassion be a force that transforms not only your own life, but the world around you.